From getting smashed with a steel chair to being set on fire, from crashing through tables to getting slammed onto thumbtacks, WWE wrestlers take insane risks week in and week out. But how many of these weapons are actually real? How do wrestlers survive all the guitar shots, barbed wire, and sledgehammers? How does a wrestler fall from 20 feet above the ring and still walk out on their own 2 feet? How did John Cena survive after getting chokeslammed through a spotlight by Big Show? Well, in the next 10 minutes, you'll have all the answers because in this video, we're revealing the secrets behind every iconic WWE weapon. The steel chair might be the most recognizable weapon in wrestling history. From The Rock sending Ken Shamrock to the Shadow Realm to Seth Rollins breaking the Shield, a chair shot has ended matches, started feuds, and produced some of the loudest pops in WWE history. But while some fans think the chairs are made of rubber or plastic, that's not the case at all. The chairs are completely real steel. What's different is the rivets holding them together. WWE chairs are modified to fold completely flat, spreading the impact over a wider surface rather than concentrating it at one point. That single change is the difference between a safe shot and a trip to the hospital. For years, wrestlers took these shots directly to the skull and the results piled up. Repeated head trauma from chair shots became one of the biggest reasons WWE eventually banned them outright. Shots to the back are still fair game, but the head is off limits now. Even with that rule in place, things still go wrong. Just look at Cody Rhodes getting busted open by Shawn Spears in AEW, despite every safety precaution in place. So the chair is real, the danger is real, and the only thing protecting these guys is decades of trial and error on exactly how to swing one. But if a steel chair is risky, thumbtacks are on another level entirely because there's no version of this weapon that's fake. WWE drops thousands of actual sharp metal tacks onto a mat and expects a human being to fall directly into them. The only real safety net is the ring itself. That canvas has just enough give to soften the landing compared to a hard floor, which keeps the tacks from driving in even deeper. Wrestlers are also trained to take the bump on their back rather than any single point of contact like the elbow or the eye, spreading hundreds of tiny punctures across one area instead of concentrating the damage. Mick Foley basically built a chunk of his legacy on this weapon, taking tack bumps that left him bleeding from places fans didn't even want to look at. Randy Orton has gone on record saying the fall itself wasn't the worst part. Pulling the tacks back out afterward was. Wrestlers accept that they're going to bleed and get cut up, and the only choice they have is how they land. It's one of the rare weapons where the entertainment value comes directly from the fact that nothing about it is faked. But going from a weapon that cuts you to one that can actually burn you, fire matches bring a different kind of danger into the ring. The Inferno match looks like something out of a horror movie, but WWE has refined the formula over decades. Kane's arm during the very first Inferno match against The Undertaker was covered with a flame-retardant sleeve, then layered with cooling gel. That combination let real fire burn against his skin just long enough to sell the visual without causing actual harm. The same method got reused years later against MVP, with a crew member sneaking under the ring to apply gel to his back seconds before he got shoved toward the flames. Even with all that preparation, this remains one of the riskiest spots in wrestling. A delay of even a second or a missed patch of skin can turn a stunt into a real injury with real burns. That's exactly why Inferno matches show up so rarely today. The fire itself is never faked, only the protection underneath it, and that protection has a very small margin for error. But while fire carries real risks, cinder blocks and lead pipes rely on the opposite trick by fooling your eyes. WWE replicas of cinder blocks are built from foam and plaster mixtures designed to look exactly like real concrete or metal from a few feet away. They hold their shape, they sound right when they crack, but they weigh a fraction of the real thing. Lead pipes follow the same logic. The ones used on WWE television are usually lightweight metal or rubber tubing painted to match, giving wrestlers something they can swing with real force without delivering real blunt trauma. The visual sells the danger, the sound effects do the rest, and the wrestler taking the hit absorbs far less than viewers assume. It's a perfect example of how WWE manufactures fear without the actual risk, at least most of the time. Do you remember the time Sheamus powerbombed Sin Cara through a ladder and the ladder broke in half? Later in the video, we'll reveal the trick behind that exact moment. But up next, let's talk about sledgehammers. Sledgehammers belong to one wrestler more than anyone else, Triple H. When he first introduced the weapon back in 1999, it wasn't even real. The head was solid rubber attached to a real wooden handle, light enough to swing freely without putting anyone at risk. The only time an actual steel sledgehammer came out was when Triple H smashed something lifeless, like a table or an announce desk, where there was no opponent around to get hurt. As his character evolved, WWE eventually switched him over to a real sledgehammer for hitting people directly, but they built in a safeguard. Triple H cups his hand right over the metal head every single time he swings it, using his own palm to absorb most of the force before it ever reaches his opponent. It's a small adjustment, but it's the entire reason this weapon hasn't caused a serious injury despite being completely real. The trick isn't the object, it's the technique behind using it. But while Triple H relied on technique, Jeff Jarrett built his entire weapon around a calculated illusion. Double J's signature guitar shot looked brutal almost every single time, exploding into pieces the moment it touched someone's head. What made that possible wasn't a stunt double or camera trick, it was the guitar itself. These were real, playable guitars, hollowed out on the inside until barely any wood remained, just enough structure to hold its shape until it made contact. The second it connected, it shattered instantly, which created that loud, satisfying crack fans associate with the move. But this weapon also has one of wrestling's most infamous cautionary tales attached to it. When Honky Tonk Man hit Jake Roberts with a guitar, nobody had hollowed it out beforehand. It was a completely solid instrument, and the impact left Roberts legitimately hurt. That moment became the reason WWE started taking guitar prep so seriously going forward. So while the modern guitar shot looks just as devastating today, the difference between a normal show and a real injury comes down to a few minutes of prep work backstage that fans never see. Kendo sticks took a very different path to becoming a WWE staple. Borrowed from Japanese martial arts training, these hollow wooden sticks were never meant to be lethal weapons, which made them an easy fit for wrestling. The tape wrapped around both ends keeps the stick together for a handful of hits before it eventually splinters apart. That controlled breakdown is exactly the point. A kendo stick is built to look devastating on camera while actually absorbing very little force into the wrestler's body. Despite the design, things can still go wrong if a stick has a hidden defect. Big Show found that out the hard way at One Night Stand 2008 in a Singapore cane match. But while kendo sticks are designed to break, tables and ladders are built around a more complicated trick. Tables need to collapse easily enough to protect the wrestler falling through them, but ladders need to stay sturdy enough to support a full body climbing toward a title hanging above the ring. WWE tables are made from extremely thin chipboard, which is why they explode apart the instant real weight lands in the middle. Miss that sweet spot and the table won't break at all, forcing the spot to happen all over again. But ladders walk an even finer line. The steel is hollow to keep the weight down, except for one critical detail. The center section is deliberately built weaker than the rest, which is exactly what allows it to snap just like it did during Money in the Bank when Sheamus powerbombed Sin Cara through it. Despite all that engineering, both weapons have a long history of producing real injuries. The Hardys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian all built their legacies on ladder matches, and all of them still deal with the physical toll those matches left behind. The safety built into these weapons reduces risk, but it never fully removes it. Staple guns don't get used nearly as often as chairs or tables, but when they show up, there's no hiding what's happening. Just like thumbtacks, this weapon has no fake version. The staples are real, the gun is real, and every single one ends up lodged directly into skin. The only adjustment wrestlers make is to staple through clothing rather than bare skin whenever possible. It doesn't remove the pain, but it softens the impact slightly and makes pulling the staples back out a little less brutal afterward. This weapon mostly lives in hardcore and deathmatch wrestling in AEW and on the indie scene rather than mainstream WWE shows, since there's really no way to dress it up as anything other than exactly what it looks like. Out of every weapon in wrestling, this might be the hardest one to fake, simply because faking it would require removing the one thing that makes it dangerous in the first place, the staple itself. But while staple guns can't be faked, barbed wire carries a reputation that's only half accurate. Sometimes it's completely real, and sometimes it's not, depending entirely on the match and the wrestler involved. When WWE goes with the genuine version, the barbs are usually clipped down and folded flat ahead of time, cutting down the risk without eliminating it completely. Wrestlers can still grab it, get tangled in it, or land on it, but the sharpest edges have been dulled just enough to avoid serious cuts. Other times, production swaps in fake barbed wire with rubber tips instead of metal, which looks identical under the right lighting but can't actually break skin. Mick Foley became the face of this weapon by refusing to settle for the safer version. His matches against Triple H leaned on real wire specifically because the visual of actual blood made the violence feel believable. Batista made the same choice years later against Triple H inside Hell in a Cell. Both cases prove that even when WWE has a safer option available, some wrestlers choose the real thing anyway. Glass might be the most misleading weapon on this entire list, mainly because it almost never is what it appears to be. Most of the time, WWE uses sugar glass, a material built to shatter on impact without the dangerous edges that come with the real thing. It looks convincing, sounds convincing, and gives wrestlers a way to crash through windows or panels without serious risk. But this weapon has also produced one of the worst mistakes in WWE history. During the 2001 King of the Ring match between Kurt Angle and Shane McMahon, the plan called for Shane to get suplexed through a sheet of glass. However, someone backstage grabbed plexiglass instead of sugar glass, and nobody caught the mix-up until it was too late. When Angle hit the move, the glass didn't break. Shane's head bounced straight off it and slammed into the concrete underneath, and it took a second attempt just to get the glass to shatter the way it was supposed to. Shane needed dozens of stitches afterward, all because of one backstage mix-up. And speaking of Shane, remember the time this mad lad jumped off Hell in a Cell during his match against The Undertaker? Not only that, but Shane has been known for taking high risks his entire career, be it jumping off the Titantron or crashing through announce tables. So how did he survive all of this? The trick is a crash pad that's usually hidden below the announce table to absorb most of the punishment. The risk is still there, but it softens out the landing. This is the same trick used in Hollywood, and the same trick Jeff Hardy used during his infamous Swanton Bomb on Randy Orton in 2008. But going back to the topic of glass, remember when Big Show chokeslammed John Cena through a spotlight in 2009 and the whole thing exploded? For years, wrestling fans have wondered what was the real secret behind the moment. The answer is a clever mix of sugar glass and camera angles. The glass Cena got slammed through was sugar glass, and once Cena was in and the spotlight exploded, the pyro was set off from the backside and right side of the spotlight, but for fans watching on TV, it looked like the whole thing had exploded. This is exactly why you saw no burn marks or smoke near Cena after the match ended. And speaking of Cena, have you ever wondered what WWE wrestlers eat to get jacked and look like superheroes? Check out this video next to find out.